The Haven Point trading station floated at the edge of charted space, a glittering hub where merchants from dozens of worlds exchanged goods, gossip, and occasionally heated words. Myra Castellanos wiped sweat from her brow as she arranged crystalline samples on her display table, each one carefully labeled with origin coordinates and mineral composition. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical braid, and her coveralls bore the colorful stains of a dozen different planetary soils. Fresh specimens from the Andara belt, she called out to passing traders. Purest lithium quartz this side of the frontier. The station hummed with activity around her. A group of four-armed Deltans haggled with a hovering merchant over spice containers. Somewhere in the distance, what sounded like singing crystals chimed in harmonious patterns. Myra loved the chaos of market day, the way it made her feel connected to something bigger than her small trading operation. She was examining a particularly nice geode when a shadow fell across her table. Myra looked up to find herself facing someone unlike any trader she'd encountered before. He stood tall and lean, his skin appearing almost translucent with a faint opalescent shimmer beneath. What struck her most were his eyes, which held depths of color that seemed to shift between violet and gold, like watching a sunset through prism glass. His clothing was simple but elegant, flowing robes in shades of white and pale blue. "These samples," he said, his voice carrying a melodic quality that made her think of wind chimes. "You collected them yourself?" "Every single one," Myra replied, straightening with pride. "I don't deal in second-hand goods. What you see is what I've personally extracted and cataloged." He leaned closer, examining the crystals with an intensity that made Myra oddly self-conscious. His long fingers, she noticed, had an extra joint, allowing them to bend in ways that seemed almost fluid. Remarkable. The color saturation in this formation suggests it grew near a quantum vent. Myra blinked in surprise. Most traders couldn't tell a quantum crystal from common quartz. "You know your mineralogy. Are you a collector?" "A scholar," he corrected, then seemed to catch himself. "Torin Vale, from the luminary worlds. I study crystalline formations and their ... properties. Myra Castellanos, rockhound and general troublemaker." She grinned, then gestured to her collection. "Well, Scholar Torin, if you're interested in properties, this piece here has some fascinating electromagnetic resonance patterns." She reached for the crystal at the same moment he did. Their fingers brushed, skin against skin, and something extraordinary happened. A pendant hanging against Torin's chest, which Myra had assumed was decorative jewelry, suddenly blazed with brilliant light. The crystal pulsed in rhythmic waves, casting rainbow reflections across both of them and the surrounding stalls. Torin jerked back as if electrocuted, his eyes wide with what looked like shock, or perhaps fear. The crystal continued to pulse, though less intensely, its light visible even through his robes. "What just happened?" Myra asked, staring at the glowing pendant. Around them, several traders had stopped to watch, whispering among themselves. This ISN single quotes T ... Torin seemed utterly at a loss for words, his hands hovering near the pendant, but not touching it. The usual musical quality of his voice had turned sharp with distress. "Is it dangerous?" Myra stepped back, concerned. "Should I get medical help?" "No, it's not dangerous. It's impossible." He finally tore his gaze from the crystal to meet her eyes. "This is a resonance crystal. My people use them to identify compatible matches for bonding. They react to specific harmonic frequencies between individuals." Myra's eyebrows rose. "Like a matchmaking device?" "More than that. It measures compatibility across dozens of factors. Biological rhythms, energy signatures, emotional wavelengths. It's been passed down through my family for 6 generations. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "It has never activated before. For anyone. And it just lit up for a human?" Myra wasn't sure whether to be flattered or concerned. That seemed unlikely. Unlikely? Torin let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a groan. It should be impossible. Luminary bonding crystals are calibrated to our specific biology. They don't react to other species. They can't. Before Mira could respond, the station's alert system began to wail. Red lights flashed in the corners of the market hall, and an automated voice announced, "Atmospheric contamination detected in sectors 3 through 7. Emergency lockdown protocols initiating. All personnel proceed to nearest safe zone." Panic rippled through the crowded market. Traders began grabbing their most valuable items, shoving them into bags and containers. The four-armed Deltans knocked over a display in their haste to reach an exit. Overhead, glass doors began to descend with mechanical precision. "Come on," Myra shouted over the chaos, already packing her most valuable specimens. She looked at Torin, who stood frozen, still staring at his glowing crystal. "Scholar, move, unless you want to test your biology's response to contaminated air." Her words snapped him out of his stupor. He grabbed his satchel and followed as she navigated through the surging crowd. Myra's years on various stations had taught her to always know the emergency exits. She ducked under a half-closed blast door, hearing it slam shut behind them as Torin barely made it through. They found themselves in a maintenance corridor, dimly lit by emergency strips along the floor. The sounds of chaos were muffled here, replaced by the hum of life support systems and their own heavy breathing. "That was close," Myra said, checking her bag to make sure nothing had broken. "These lockdowns usually last a few hours while they cycle the atmosphere. We should be safe here." Torin nodded, but his attention was still on the crystal, which had dimmed to a soft, steady glow. "I need to understand this. The resonance shouldn't be possible. Maybe it malfunctioned?" Myra suggested, though even she could hear how weak that sounded. Resonance crystals don't malfunction. They're grown over decades, attuned to the individual who will carry them. They're more reliable than any technology. He looked at her with those shifting eyes, and Myra felt an odd flutter in her chest. "Which means the resonance is real. So what does that mean, exactly?" She leaned against the wall, trying to appear casual despite her racing thoughts. "It means that somehow, against all biological probability, you and I are compatible. That our energies harmonize in a way my people would consider optimal for bonding." He sat down on the floor, looking exhausted. "It means I may have just found my resonance match in a species I was taught couldn't possibly register on the crystal at all." Myra slid down to sit beside him, leaving a careful space between them. "Your people have arranged bonding? Based on these crystals?" "Not arranged, exactly. The crystals guide us toward compatible partners, but the choice is still ours. Resonance bonding is considered sacred among the Luminari. When your crystal activates, your family, your community, everyone expects you to pursue that connection." His laugh was bitter. "They certainly don't expect it to light up for an alien species." "Hey now, alien is a matter of perspective," Myra said with a slight smile. "From where I'm sitting, you're the alien." That drew a genuine laugh from him, and the sound made the crystal pulse brighter for just a moment. They both noticed it, falling into an awkward silence. "Does it always do that?" Myra asked. "React to emotions?" Resonance crystals reflect the harmony between bonded pairs. Strong emotions, physical proximity, shared experiences, all of these can intensify the resonance. He studied her face as if trying to solve a particularly complex equation. "Tell me about yourself, Mira Castellanos. How does a human end up collecting crystals on a frontier trading station?" She shrugged, grateful for the change in subject. "Family business, sort of. My parents were both geologists, always chasing the next interesting rock formation. They dragged my brother and me across half the explored galaxy before settling down. After they retired, I figured I'd keep the tradition going. Someone has to supply scholars like you with specimens to study. And you enjoy it? The traveling, the solitude? I wouldn't call it solitude. I meet new people every day at the markets. But yeah, I enjoy the freedom, the discovery. Every planet has different mineral formations, different stories written in the stone. She glanced at him. What about you? What brings a luminary scholar to Haven Point? Research, primarily. I'm studying the interaction between crystalline structures and consciousness. There are theories that certain formations can store or transmit information, even emotions. His eyes took on an enthusiastic glow as he spoke. Imagine being able to preserve memories in crystal, to share experiences across time and space. That sounds like something out of ancient myth, Mira said, but she was intrigued despite herself. Most myths have some root in truth. My people have always had a unique relationship with crystals. We're born with small crystalline formations in our bodies, nothing like humans' bones, but serving similar structural purposes. As we grow, these crystals grow with us, becoming attuned to our individual frequencies. Is that why you shimmer? The question was out before Mira could stop it. Sorry, that probably sounds rude. Not at all. Yes, the crystalline structures in our bodies refract light in certain ways, creating what you see as a shimmer. It's more pronounced when we experience strong emotions. As if to demonstrate, his skin brightened slightly, colors swirling beneath the surface. Mira found herself leaning closer, fascinated. That's beautiful. Torrin's shimmer intensified, and the resonance crystal blazed brighter. He cleared his throat, looking flustered. Thank you. Humans are rather striking as well, in your own way. The variation in your coloring, the expressiveness of your faces. Are you saying I'm pretty, scholar? Mira teased, then immediately regretted it. This wasn't the time for flirting, not with the situation they'd found themselves in. But Torrin didn't seem offended. Instead, he met her gaze directly, his voice soft. I'm saying that the resonance crystal may not be as impossible as I thought. There's something about you, Mira Castellanos, that harmonizes with something in me. I don't understand it yet, but I'm beginning to think I'd like to. The maintenance corridor suddenly felt much smaller, the space between them charged with possibility. Myra's heart hammered in her chest as she processed his words. This was crazy. They just met, and under the most bizarre circumstances imaginable. She didn't even know if their biologies were compatible enough for anything beyond conversation. And yet, when she looked at Torrin, at his shifting eyes and shimmering skin, at the way he held himself with such careful dignity, even while sitting on a dusty floor, she felt something she hadn't expected. Curiosity, yes, but also a pull, an attraction that went beyond the merely physical. I'd like that too, she heard herself say. The resonance crystal pulsed, its glow steady and warm, as if approving their tentative decision. Above them, the station's life support systems hummed, and somewhere in the distance, the atmospheric alarms continued their muted wailing. But in their small section of corridor, Mira and Torrin sat in companionable silence. Two beings from different worlds, beginning to discover what harmony might mean. The emergency lights cast long shadows across the maintenance corridor as Mira and Torrin settled into an uneasy but companionable silence. The resonance crystal had dimmed to a gentle pulse, like a heartbeat visible through Torrin's robes. Outside their refuge, the station's decontamination protocols continued their automated cycle. How long do these lockdowns typically last? Torrin asked, shifting to find a more comfortable position against the wall. Depends on the contamination level. Could be 2 hours, could be 6. Mira pulled a water bottle from her pack and offered it to him. You okay with standard H2O, or is that going to poison you? A smile tugged at his lips. Luminary physiology is compatible with most basic compounds. Water is fine, thank you. He accepted the bottle, and their fingers brushed again. The crystal flared brighter, and they both felt it a warmth that seemed to spread from the point of contact up through their arms. Torrin pulled back quickly, nearly dropping the bottle. I apologize. I should have been more careful. Does it hurt? Mira asked, concerned by his reaction. No, it's not pain. It's... He struggled to find the words. Intense. Like suddenly being aware of a frequency you didn't know existed. The resonance creates a feedback loop of sensation and emotion. Myra studied the glowing crystal with new interest. So what you're feeling, I'm feeling it too? That warmth? In theory, yes. Though humans don't have crystalline structures to amplify the sensation the way Luminari do. For me, it's quite overwhelming. He took a careful sip of water, keeping his hands away from hers. I've studied resonance bonding my entire life, but experiencing it is entirely different from understanding the theory. Tell me more about it, Myra said, drawing her knees up to her chest. How does it work for your people? Torrin set the water bottle down between them, creating a safe barrier. Luminary children receive their resonance crystals during our coming-of-age ceremony. The crystal is grown specifically for them, attuned to their unique frequency over many years. Most people wear them their entire lives, waiting for that moment of activation. And some never find their match. Some don't, yes. It's not considered a failure Luminari can bond without resonance, though it's believed to be less harmonious. But when a crystal does activate, it's celebrated. Families gather, ceremonies are planned. The resonance match is introduced to the community and begins the formal bonding process. Sounds elaborate, Myra observed. Humans tend to be more casual about the whole thing. We call it dating, spending time together to see if we're compatible. No crystals required, just trial and error. And how often does that method succeed? Torrin asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. Mira laughed. Fair point. We get it wrong plenty. But there's something to be said for choosing based on experience rather than predetermined compatibility. Love is messy and complicated and doesn't always make logical sense. Love. Torrin repeated the word as if tasting it. The resonance isn't quite the same as what humans call love. It's deeper, a fundamental harmony between two beings. Love can grow from resonance, but the resonance itself is more primal. Like destiny? Myra suggested. Perhaps, though destiny implies inevitability, and we still have choice. The resonance only indicates potential, not obligation. He looked at her with those shifting eyes. What do you believe, Mira? In destiny or choice? She considered the question carefully. I think we make our own paths. But I also think the universe has a way of putting people together who need to meet. Maybe it's not destiny, just favorable probability. A very scientific approach to romance, says the scholar who trusts a glowing rock to tell him who to date. They both laughed, and the sound echoed pleasantly in the narrow corridor. The tension between them eased slightly, replaced by something warmer, more natural. Tell me about your world, Myra said after a moment. I've never been to the Luminary systems. Torrin's face lit up with the kind of enthusiasm only someone truly passionate about their home could show. Lumina is beautiful in ways that are difficult to describe. Our cities are grown rather than built crystalline structures that spiral toward the sky, refracting sunlight into rainbows. At night, the buildings themselves glow with stored light energy, so our cities are never truly dark. That sounds incredible, Myra said, trying to imagine it. The forests are perhaps even more remarkable. Trees with crystalline bark that sing when the wind passes through them. Each forest has its own unique symphony. As children, we learn to identify different regions by their songs. His voice grew softer, more nostalgic. I miss it sometimes when I'm out here in the cold metal stations of space. Why leave then? If it's so beautiful? Because beautiful things can also be confining. Luminary society is ancient, with traditions that go back thousands of years. Everyone has their place, their role, their expected path. I wanted to see what lay beyond those crystalline spires, to study more than what my teachers deemed appropriate. He smiled ruefully. My family was not pleased when I announced my intention to travel among other species. Rebellious scholar, Nira teased. I like it. And what about you? You said your parents retired. Where? New Sedona, a human colony world. Red rocks, desert landscapes, not unlike old Earth Arizona. They said after years of wandering, they wanted somewhere stable to grow old together. Myra's expression grew distant. My brother Marcus went with them. He's the responsible one married, 2 kids, teaching geology at the local university. I'm the family wanderer now. Do they worry about you? Constantly, Myra admitted with a grin. Marcus sends me messages every week checking that I haven't been eaten by space pirates or dissolved in acid rain. He doesn't understand why I can't just settle down like he did. Can you? Torin asked. See yourself settling down? The question caught Myra off guard. She'd never really thought about it before. I don't know. Maybe someday, with the right reason. But I've never met anyone who made me want to stop moving. She glanced at him. What about you? Do luminary scholars get to have relationships, or is that against some tradition? We're allowed relationships, though they're expected to be conducted with proper decorum. Public displays of affection are considered crude. Bonding is a private, sacred thing. He gestured to the crystal, which makes this situation rather complicated. If I were home and this crystal activated, there would be formal protocols to follow. Meetings with families, compatibility assessments by the elders, ceremonies to attend. And instead, you're stuck in a maintenance corridor with a human who definitely doesn't know the proper protocols. I find I prefer it this way, Torin said quietly. No expectations, no audiences. Just 2 people trying to understand an impossible connection. The crystal pulsed, responding to the emotion in his words. Myra felt that warmth again, spreading through her chest like liquid sunlight. It wasn't unpleasant, quite the opposite. It felt like recognition, like coming home to a place she'd never been. Can I ask you something personal? She ventured. After everything we've discussed, I think we're past the point of worrying about personal boundaries. Have you ever been in love? Before this, I mean. Torin was quiet for a long moment. I thought I was once. Another scholar, someone who understood my passion for research. We spent years working together, and I believed that intellectual compatibility was enough. But there was no resonance, no deeper harmony. Eventually, we both realized we were better as colleagues than partners. That must have been painful. It was a valuable learning experience. I discovered that true connection requires more than shared interests. There must be something else, something that defies logic. He looked at her. Have you been in love? A few times, or what I thought was love at the time. A fellow trader named Santiago, we traveled together for a year before realizing we drove each other crazy. A station engineer named Yuki, who was sweet but wanted different things from life. Nothing that lasted. She shrugged. I started to think maybe I wasn't built for lasting relationships. Too restless, too independent. Or perhaps you simply hadn't found the right resonance. Maybe, though I have to say, finding out there's supposedly a scientific measurement for perfect compatibility is kind of terrifying. What if the crystal is wrong? What if we try this and it doesn't work? Torin reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand. The crystal blazed bright, and that warmth flooded through both of them, stronger now. His skin was smoother than human skin, slightly cooler, and she could feel a faint vibration, like standing near a tuning fork. "The resonance cannot predict the future," he said softly. "It can only tell us that right now, in this moment, we harmonize. What we do with that information is entirely our choice." Myra squeezed his hand, marveling at how natural it felt, despite the alienness of his touch. "So what do we do?" "I suppose we do what your people call dating. We spend time together. We learn about each other. We see if the resonance reflects something real, or if it's simply a beautiful anomaly." His thumb traced small circles on her palm, sending pleasant shivers up her arm. "I'm supposed to be on this station for another 3 weeks, completing my research." "Perhaps we could." The communication panel on the wall crackled to life, interrupting him. "Attention all personnel," a harried female voice announced. "The contamination has been traced to Sector 5. Lockdown will continue in affected areas for another 4 hours while atmospheric scrubbers complete their cycle. All other sectors are now clear for limited movement. Please proceed with caution and report any unusual symptoms to medical immediately." Myra and Torin looked at each other, both reluctant to move despite the all clear. "We should probably find out what's happening," Mira said, though she made no move to stand. "Probably," Torin agreed, also staying put. They sat there for another moment, hands still clasped, the crystal pulsing its steady rhythm between them. Finally, Mira laughed and got to her feet, pulling Torin up with her. "Come on, scholar. Let's see if my trading stall survived the chaos. You still owe me for that quantum crystal you were examining." "I hadn't agreed to purchase it yet," Torin protested. But he was smiling. "Consider it payment for the most interesting market day I've had in years." They made their way back through the corridors, following the emergency lighting toward the market sector. The station felt different, now quieter, emptier. Most traders had evacuated to their ships or safe zones. The market hall was a disaster area, with overturned stalls and scattered merchandise everywhere. Myra's table had been knocked over, her carefully organized specimens strewn across the floor. She knelt down with a sigh, beginning to collect the undamaged pieces. Torin joined her without being asked, his longer fingers carefully sorting crystals by type. "This one has a crack," he said, holding up a blue specimen. "But if you apply heat at the right frequency, the crystal structure might self-repair." "Show off," Myra said, but she was impressed. They worked in companionable silence, rebuilding her display. Other traders began to trickle back, assessing their own damage. Mira recognized several faces, and they nodded to her in the universal greeting of merchants who'd survived another station disaster. "Mira!" A familiar voice called out. She turned to see Vesper Thane, her occasional business partner, hurrying toward them. Vesper was lean and sharp-featured, with short-cropped silver hair and the calculating eyes of someone who never missed a profitable opportunity. "Thank the stars you're okay. I was worried you'd been caught in Sector 5. "We made it to a maintenance corridor just in time," Mira explained. "Vesper, this is Torin Vale. He's a luminary scholar. Torin, my business partner Vesper Thane." Vesper's eyes flickered to the glowing crystal visible at Torin's chest, then back to Myra with a raised eyebrow. "A scholar? How?" "Academic of you. We were just conducting some business when the lockdown hit," Mira said quickly, feeling her cheeks warm. "Of course, business." Vesper's expression said she didn't believe that for a second. "Well, hate to interrupt your transaction, but I need to talk to you about the shipment from Kepler Station. It arrived during the lockdown and customs is being difficult about the manifests." "I should let you attend to your work," Torin said, stepping back. But his hand brushed Mira's arm as he moved, and the crystal flared. Vesper's eyes widened. "Is that a resonance crystal? And it's activated?" She looked between them with something like awe. "Myra, do you know what this means?" "It means nothing," Mira said firmly. It's probably a malfunction. Resonance crystals don't malfunction, Vesper said, echoing Torrens' earlier words. She'd traded with Luminari before, and knew enough about their culture to understand the significance. This is extraordinary. I've heard of cross-species attraction, but never a resonance match. Vesper. Myra cut her off with a warning look. The customs issue? Her partner took the hint. Right, sorry. Can you meet me at Bay 7 in an hour? We need to sort this out before they impound the whole shipment. I'll be there. After Vesper left, casting curious glances over her shoulder, Myra turned back to Torren. Sorry about that. She means well, but she's incurably nosy. It's all right. Your friend is correct. This is extraordinary. He gestured to the crystal. I should contact my mentor, Elder Opaline. She'll want to know about this development. She may have insights into how a cross-species resonance is even possible. When will you talk to her? This evening, if communications are restored. Would you? He hesitated, looking uncertain for the first time since they'd met. Would you want to be there? If you're not busy with your business matters? Myra smiled. I'd like that. I should handle things with Vesper first, but after that, I'm free. Where should I meet you? I'm staying in the research quarters, level 12, room 47. Come by whenever you're finished. I'll wait. They stood there, neither quite ready to part ways. Finally, Torren reached out and took her hand one more time. The crystal pulsed warmly between them. This isn't over, he said softly. Good, Myra replied, because I'm really curious to hear what this Elder Opaline has to say about impossible things. She watched him walk away, his robes flowing elegantly even in the utilitarian corridors of the station. The space where his hand had been felt cold now, empty. She'd known him for mere hours, but already his absence felt like something missing. Vesper appeared at her elbow, making her jump. So, a Luminari scholar with an activated resonance crystal. That's either the most romantic thing I've ever heard, or the start of a very complicated situation. Why not both? Myra said, returning to sorting her crystals. Just be careful, Vesper said, her tone turning serious. I've dealt with Luminari merchants before. Their culture takes bonding very seriously. If word gets back to his people that his crystal activated for a human, there could be consequences. Political ones. We're just getting to know each other, Myra protested. Nothing serious. Vesper looked at the way Myra's gaze kept drifting toward where Torren had disappeared. Sure, keep telling yourself that. Now come on, we have customs officials to charm and possibly bribe. As Myra followed her partner toward the docking bays, she couldn't stop touching the spot on her palm where Torren had traced those gentle circles. The warmth lingered, like a promise of something she was only beginning to understand. Whatever this was, resonance, attraction, or something entirely new, she knew with absolute certainty that her life had just become infinitely more complicated and infinitely more interesting.